Hello and welcome to today's episode at Tsarp. I'm your host, Andrew Weir, and today we have a very special guest.
Hey, everyone. My name is Wes Bos. I'm a Fullstack developer from Canada.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. We recently were talking a lot about Fullstack with interviews we've been doing and just on regular episodes. But yeah, so you want to tell us a little about some projects you're working on now?
Yeah, so I make video tutorials, and part of that is maintaining a course platform. So that entails a whole front end that's built in React does the viewing experience, it does the whole checkout experience, and then people can buy multiple courses and see them all in their dashboard at once. It runs on multiple domains, and then the whole back end is a big Node.js application that handles all of the server-side logic behind that. So currently, right now, I'm working through converting that to TypeScript. It's built in JavaScript, and I'm 85% done converting it to TypeScript. So it's kind of been my focus for at least the last 4 or 5 days.
That's pretty cool. So what made you want to start coding?
I had been kind of like you guys. I've been into computers ever since I was super young, and like this was when the internet was sort of coming up. So I was always pretty literate in that type of stuff. And when this thing called MySpace came around, which is like one of the first social networks out there, I was more into like Photoshop and like graphic design, but MySpace came around and you needed to be able to style your pages. So I learned a little bit of CSS from that, and that sort of just forayed itself into learning full-blown coding. And that was, I don't know, probably 15, 16 years ago, and I haven't stopped since.
Wow. So JavaScript's your favorite language, or is it just the one you use the most?
I'd say it's my favorite. It's pretty much all I've worked on. I early days I was like a PHP dev, and then as JavaScript started to sort of come up and get more popular, and the language was evolving, meaning that they would add more stuff to it, I said, you know what, like I'm gonna sort of bet my career on just doing JavaScript. So I sort of left PHP behind. Not that it's a bad language, but I sort of saw that the front end and the back end can be done in JavaScript, and I really like the language. So I said, I'm going to go all in on this.
Yeah, JavaScript's definitely been becoming more popular and more popular. And it can really be used for anything nowadays, from web apps to desktop apps to mobile apps. So definitely, and we recently talked about this too, but it's one of the biggest languages you should learn right now because of how it can be used in a ton of different spaces.
Yeah, you can literally use it anywhere. Like there's many projects out there. Esprino, it's called. You can run it on a microcontroller, which means that you can literally run hardware. Like if you wanted to measure the temperature in your room and then open the blinds or something like that, you could literally do that in JavaScript.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and like, what's cool is there's all these open source tools and stuff that allow you to, like you said, just do different things. And really, it can do anything you want, just from someone making it, or you can make it your own to be used in different applications. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So what is your mindset? How do you go about debugging your code? Like, do you have a certain process you like to follow every time, or stuff like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, what I like to do is to distill it down into the smallest possible case that I possibly can, where the issue is still happening. Meaning that something is so frustrating. Try to take it out of the app that you're working on and just make a little example somewhere else. And if that bug still happens, then you don't have 100 other things sort of at play while you're trying to focus on what the actual problem is. And then the other thing I have is it's called rubber duck debugging, which literally means like just talk through it yourself. Because often when you are trying to figure out what an issue is, if you're trying to explain it to somebody, I often like, oh, I know what it is, because you have to literally think through all the parts to explain it to someone, and often that will jog your memory and say, okay, I think I could figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of good methods out there. That one, the rubber duck method, I've been hearing a lot lately.
I've actually started to use it for my personal projects.
Yeah, like not just you can talk in your head or talk to yourself, or if there's someone around, talk to them. Even if the person knows a little bit about technology too, that can help. But yeah, so what was it like when you were in middle school and high school? Like, did a lot of people do coding and technology, or were you kind of all of it, or did your friends do it too?
No, actually. I think I was the only one in Canada. We call it grade school, which is like kindergarten through grade 8. And I had made like a website on PlayStation 2 before it came out. That could tell you how old I am. And that's I was like really excited about it. And like I remember just being like, how do you get something on the internet, And then as I got into university, I don't recall, like there was a couple other people that had dabbled in it, but like that was mostly just me who's dipping into that stuff. And then when I got to university, there was probably 6 or 7 other people that were like serious about it, and that was really nice to be able to talk to other people who know how to do this stuff.
Yeah, and like you said, like just figuring out how to get stuff on the web. I remember like this was, I don't know, a few years ago, and when I had just started like coding, but I was like, how do I get this program, this code I wrote? Like I can run it, but I want to figure out how I get it on the web, or how do I just make it into a real program to kind of just share with people and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like when I first did it, I was just like, how did someone put a website on here? Like, and I didn't even understand what code was at the time either. Like, I think I started with Angel Fire or something like that, where it was just like an online builder. And I just didn't grasp that there were different parts to it. And eventually you figured it out.
Yeah. And like, I mean, computers in general are just like so hard to comprehend with like central processing units and all that stuff, like how they function. And the people that thought of those ideas and stuff were geniuses on how to get them to work. But like once you wrap your head around all that, you it starts to come together how things are put together to make websites, make programs and stuff like that.
Exactly. You got it.
So, what was your first big project that you worked on that got that you shared with people and people saw when you started to code?
That's a good question. My first big project, like my first couple websites were just like personal websites. And they would be like, you can go back on a Wayback Machine and look at some of my early stuff. It was just like I think probably the one that I was most proud of is when I implemented a light box, which is like you pop up an image and you could have the arrows to click to the next image and to the next. It's sort of like an image gallery. So you have all your thumbnails and they can pop open and see others. So that was like a really big one early on, probably when I was in like 9th grade, 10th grade, something like that. And then when I was in university, I made a website that this was like the first custom app I did. It's called Deal Page, and it aggregated just like deals from around the city into one single page. And that was a lot of custom code. That was a lot of web scraping involved, email sending. So I really learned a lot about how to actually tackle applications rather than just websites at the time.
Yeah.
So you said earlier on that your current website where you post all your video tutorials and stuff is made with React. Is there a reason you went with React, or?
At the time, I started building that all probably 9 years ago. And at the time I still am very much into React. It was kind of the framework to build this type of stuff in. These days, I don't know that I would pick that as my first choice. It's kind of tricky because like from like what employers are hiring for and like what you can, if you want to go make some cash, like definitely React is the one. But there's certainly other frameworks out there that are much easier to pick up, I think.
So a big debate also right now is vanilla CSS or Tailwind CSS. Do you use Tailwind or?
Yeah. I'm more in the camp of write it myself. Early on I was I don't think I really understood the benefits of it. And I also know I didn't have the problems that it solved. But over the years, I think I was wrong about that. I had many people who I know absolutely love it. So I feel like my next project, I probably should just do a full Go project in it just to give it a fair shake.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
So Wes Bos, what would you like? Oh, sorry. What advice would you give to someone who's younger who would like to start web development but don't know where to start?
Yeah. I say, like, the only reason I am where I am right now is because I was just constantly curious about how things work and wanting to make things that I wanted. Not because I wanted a super well paying job and not because I wanted to get into tech or anything like that, but like I literally was just like curious how these things worked and I enjoyed doing it. So, my recommendation to them is, like, I'm not going to share resources, and I have lots of resources myself. I make them, but I think it's more important just to make lots and lots of projects, lots of little things here or there, lots of demos, just try lots of stuff. And as you get those little wins, your confidence in coding increases every single time. And I think that's the key to somebody who wants to get into it, because you certainly can just dive right into some super deep stuff. And it's just like, why do people like this? This is really hard. Nothing ever works. It doesn't compile. This is really frustrating.
So yeah, well, thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And yeah, so thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.